Certification of a coach is a question I get often. It's because really there's no barrier to entry to calling yourself a coach. And so as people take a look at coaching and certification, they want to really understand what it means and the importance of it. For example, I hung out my shingle to coach long before I got certified. But after I went to coaching school, I recognized that all those clients that were engaging me, they really weren't engaging me as a coach. They liked my corporate experience and they were engaging me as a consultant. So if you need a consultant, I would say get a consultant. If you're looking for a coach, then I would say get a certified coach. And there's a difference between being certified and being accredited. So being certified means you went to school, you got educated to be a coach, and you are now certified to go coach. Now, the International Coaching Federation, ICF, they have accreditation. And in order to be accredited, not only must you be certified, but you have to have coaching experience, live coaching experience. For example, the International Coaching Federation has 3 levels of coaches. To be a first level, level 1 is the ACC, the Associated Certified Coach. In order to be that and be qualified, you have to take a test, but you also have to have 65 hours of pure training and 100 hours of one-on-one live coaching in order to be certified. You have to be experienced. Level 2 is the PCC, the Professional Certified Coach. Now, those coaches have to have over 125 hours of training and I think almost 1,000 hours of one-on-one coaching. And the highest level, level 3, is called the Master Certified Coach, or the MCC. Now, these coaches have to have over 200 hours of training and 2,500 hours of actual coaching. Those tend to be your career coaches. So when you're looking at coaching, you want to look at 2 things to make sure, number 1, that they're certified, and number 2, that they're accredited, and you will probably get the best trained coach when it comes to coaching. You have certification and accreditation as a criteria. And that's sort of the technical part. And then comes the non-technical part. And I look at 4 basic criteria when you're choosing your coach, especially an executive coach. Number 1 is corporate experience. If I wanted to choose a fitness coach, I would want to choose someone that's an athlete, would probably be better than a non-athlete at being a fitness coach, just because of the experience. And the same thing applies for an executive coach. A lot of times, one of the choices that people look at in choosing a great executive coach is, do you have corporate experience? Have you walked the steps that I've walked? Have you undergone the pressures that I've been under? And do you understand the political part of what happens in an organization? So that's the first criteria. The second, and probably the most important, is chemistry. If you don't have chemistry with your coach, there's a high chance that any coaching effort is going to fail. Because without chemistry and connection, you won't have trust. And when you don't have trust, you really don't have that back and forth conversation and dialogue that helps improve performance. Number 3 is confidentiality. With every coaching client that I have, we sign a non-disclosure agreement, so we can talk about anything. And you want to be absolutely sure that your coach maintains the ICF standards of confidentiality, because you want to be able to talk to that coach about anything, things you can't talk about with your staff, things you can't talk about with your peers. You want to war game ideas, but confidentiality is an absolute must. And the last part of choosing a coach, I call it courage and empathy. And you have to be equal-handed in both. Number 1, your coach has to be courageous enough to give you unvarnished, transparent feedback. One of the things I learned in corporate America is the higher up I got, the more the information was modified and made pretty on its way up. And so by the time it got to me, it looked nothing like it was generated at the source. And so a lot of times what senior leaders need is really transparent, unvarnished truth about their performance, about their strengths, about their opportunities for improvement. And the other hand is you got to have empathy. You have to be able to put yourselves in the shoes of your client. And that goes back to that corporate experience. You have to be able to understand the pressures that they're under. You got to hit a quarter. You have a board you have to report to. You have to be able to rally the team, inspire the team, create the vision, have the mission, and the myriad of things that an executive has to go through. So even-handed with being a courageous coach, to be able to deliver that feedback and connection and be empathetic in order to understand what that executive is going through. So if you have those 4 things, along with the technical accreditation, I think you pretty much have a safe bet on a pretty good coach. Most of my clients are US clients. I have clients in Asia and clients in Europe, but probably 75% are US clients. And there's a lot of challenging times going on in the US, from COVID-19 to a lot of the tensions that are happening around race. So a lot of the conversations of my senior executives now is they want to understand how to engage their organizations in conversations about race, or what they should do. And they carry this big weight on their shoulders, like, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I do the wrong thing? What happens now? And part of that is to deload that weight and really focus on 2 things. And one is intellectual curiosity, and other is the power of listening. Now, I'm a big proponent of intellectual curiosity. It is like one of the go or no-go criteria of anyone I've ever hired, because when you have intellectual curiosity, you want to learn things. I have this equation I call my great leadership equation. And I challenge my executives to, if you prove my equation wrong, I owe you a cup of coffee. And that's that great leadership equals IQ times CQ times EQ. IQ being your intelligence quotient, that's your ability to learn. CQ being your curiosity, that's your willingness to learn. And EQ being your emotional intelligence. That's your ability to understand your emotions and other emotions and use that in your decision. And so the beauty of this equation is a multiplication equation. So that tells you if you are a 0 in any one of those criteria, 0 times 0 is 0. And to the opposite of that is, it really doesn't matter where you started with your IQ, because it's a multiplication equation. You can improve your skills and your CQ and your EQ and take your great leadership to unparalleled heights. And so IQ is a very important part of that, because there are a lot of studies that people that are intellectually curious, they tend to be able to listen better. They tend to be able to be more empathetic, put themselves in other people's shoes. They tend to be able to not be afraid to be wrong, not be afraid to ask questions, and they tend to not let past influences or preconceptions come into the current dialogue. So just my challenge to them is, if you approach the conversations of being intellectually curious and then leverage the power of listening, leverage the power of deep listening, which means, I like to call it the 4 B's of deep listening. So you have to be attentive, you have to be courteous, you have to be curious, and body language. So a lot of times you just overthink listening. You just really have to focus on what the person is saying. You have to listen for understanding and not to reply. A lot of times we listen to have this great reply. And you have to be courteous about it. Stop doing anything else. Focus on the person that's talking. And then make sure you're truly giving all the buying signals that I hear you and I'm focused on understanding you. And so having the executives be comfortable engaging in these conversations. And I get the feedback, this conversation they had all this anxiety about, it was great, because they decluttered all the mess and just focused on those 2 things. Being curious and listening. And those 2 things make a powerful combination when you want to engage your workforce in understanding some of the challenging things that are going on in their lives today.